Hi, I'm Corey.
Hi, I'm Tess.
Welcome to A Lovely Place.
We're so glad you've joined us as we invite Jesus into the midst of our lives, learning, and laughter.
We hope this podcast can encourage your heart and make you smile today.
Hello, my friend Corey.
Hello, friend Tess.
How are you doing today?
Good. I'm glad to be with you, even if it's on the computer screen, filming, whatever, recording. I like this time. It's a fun. It makes the anticipation and the nerves relax when we're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna talk to Tess. This is good,
Right?
and share some information, and
Yes.
yeah,
It
so that's
is
a good thing. Yeah.
Yes. Well, so today is our very last episode talking about the Kendra Adachi's The Lazy Genius Way.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of closed that up a little bit last episode, but we wanted to spend a little bit more time on the principles of put everything in its place and essentialize.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, even I think that deciding once kind of goes and start small goes along with this too.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk
And even
about,
let people in.
right? So we're going to talk about decluttering and minimizing, because that's something that both of us have been passionate about in the last several years. But I thought we could start by just kind of talking about what kind of what started you on this journey. What was it that caused you to take action instead of just like thinking about it?
Well, I just remember feeling it was in Battleground at our house, and that was like a 900 and something square foot house, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, ranch style, very simple, straightforward. And I just felt like we were just overwhelmed with stuff, and I couldn't figure out how to make dinner. My closet wasn't very nice to me, and so it was like, what's going on? Everything's coming out of the closet, and it just was like, it was like enough was enough. So the kitchen overwhelmed me too much, so I started in my closet, and as I started taking layers of that, and I think Dawn the Minimal Mom is the one that talks about the onion method. Like, you take one layer off, and then you take another layer, and every time it gets easier to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Because it's decision fatigue sets in. But it was just like I was on this mission, like, okay, I need to get my clothes at least to have a closet full of clothes that fit, and then it's easy for me to put my laundry away. So it wasn't like I was stuffing hangers in or didn't know what drawer to put what in. And so that's where it started, to try to just feel like I could be with Riker, because he was like 2, I think. So he's moving around and he was doing stuff, and it was just like I just couldn't handle stuff everywhere. How about you? What was your
well, so
point?
I'm the youngest in my family, and so I notoriously get a lot of hand-me-downs, like, and I have my whole life a lot of things that people are like, oh, I'm not using this anymore, why don't you have it? And I've never been very good at saying no. That's just something that I struggle with. And so when we lived in our last house in near Hillsboro, we had, it was a 3-bedroom house, but we had 2 kids at that point, and it got so out of control, like. And then we moved. And I think moving was the kind of the thing that started me a little bit more seriously on it, because we got to the point that we had like packed all our stuff, or packed some of our stuff enough to fill a van or whatever, like a moving truck. And then it was like, wow, we still have all this stuff. Like, where is it going to fit? What are we doing with it? And we got rid of like a truckload, like a pickup truck full of stuff that we had a friend just take it to Goodwill or whatever. And then we had like a dump load, and it was just like kind of one of those moments where you look at all this stuff and it makes you sick to your stomach. Like, I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but that's what I felt, was like, what? Oh, like, whoa, And so we moved here and to Battleground, and somehow still we were still acquiring things that we didn't need, and so but I think that the mindset that kind of changed for me was when I looked at myself and I looked at my, like, the way I was spending my time. And most of my time was spent either tidying the house, organizing my possessions, or having anxiety about tidying and organizing. Like, because the
Yeah.
times I wasn't tidying and organizing, I was so overwhelmed that I was just stressing out about it, even though I wasn't doing it, you know?
Hmm.
And so it was like that was the majority of my time, how it was spent.
Yeah.
And I, you know, like, without not having read The Lazy Genius Way, but I looked and was like, what is important to me?
Yeah.
Not this. Like,
Right.
I want to be spending time with my kids. Like, I want to be not stressed out all the time.
Hmm.
I want to not have like this such a visually distracting environment
Hmm.
that I spend time in, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that for me was kind of the tipping point where I was like, I have to get more serious about this because I
Yeah.
don't want this to be my life and like the legacy that I leave
Hmm.
for my kids and the people around me, you know?
Yeah. And I think
So,
when I started decluttering, one of my friends started a Facebook decluttering group, and she had like this January challenge, get rid of 30 things or whatever. I don't remember what it was. And then I found Dawn the Minimal Mom, and then she was sharing Joshua Becker's sermon. And I
yeah.
love that he shared from a faith perspective of we're not meant to have so much stuff, and not in a way that it was like you can't have nice things or you can't have a home, but it was like, hey, let's have the mindset that those things aren't priority over other people or time with Jesus or just mental space for how about mental health? Or
Yeah.
just like that spirituality. And so as I kept decluttering, and I just started with all the stuff that I could control or I could get rid of without affecting Stefan and Riker too much. And then as I got going and they saw the momentum and the benefits of what I was doing already, then I was starting to teach Riker as a little 3-year-old, like, hey, we don't have to keep all this toys anymore. There's new toys coming, or
Yeah.
whatever the process is. And then, but just, I was re-listening to Joshua Becker's sermon, and I just was like challenged again, like, okay, what if this is important to me? And now I'm trying to create more space for Jesus and what things are really important to create a lovely place in my heart and in my
Yeah.
home, not just on this podcast, right? Like, but it was just like, okay, how can I get to that onion layer of stuff? And now we've moved into this new house in Spokane, and it's twice as big or even more than that. And I remember you came and visited, and you're like, how did you fit all your stuff in Battleground? And I'm like thinking in my head, it must have been like a tight Tetris puzzle. Only move one piece or it's all going to fall down, right? But then I was
Yeah.
kind of a little convicted, like, oh, we were able to fill up this big house with all of our stuff. And so I'm just like, it should look like we don't have anything because we moved from whatever. So that's been in the
Yeah.
back of my head of just like, I don't know. I don't want to be
Yeah.
ruled by stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I realized, so in the last month, or maybe like 3 months, we've done some pretty drastic
Hmm.
decluttering in our room and in our bathrooms, and just recently in the garage, but then in the kitchen as well.
Yeah.
And just as I reflect, like, in the evenings, um it just, I realize how much stress feels like it's just lifted off my shoulders because of, I think there's something that you don't really think about, but this like unseen like an unseen to-do list. And I know
Yeah.
Dawn the Minimal Mom talks a
Hmm.
little bit about that, but also the idea that you're responsible and taking care of all these things. And that,
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much that was weighing on me, of like, well, I have to kind of know what I have, right? Because you don't want to have things that you don't know what they are, because then you can't find things. So then if I have to know about all these things that I have, and then I have to think of that I'm taking care of them, they're not getting ruined, they're not getting wet, you know, like things in the
Right.
garage.
Right.
And it just becomes this gigantic like thing that's just like hanging over me. And so
Hmm.
I just like my mental state feels so much better after subtracting and,
Yeah.
keeping what's important, but then letting all the other stuff kind of
Yeah.
move on,
And not that, because we mentioned a few of the different principles, but now I'm thinking of like the live in your season thing, and that
Yeah.
helped me get rid of some things too. Like it was like, am I going to have a newborn and do a lot of quilting, or am I going to do a lot of card making or craft stuff? And so I got rid of a lot of that stuff because it just wasn't the moment I was in, the season. And it was like trying to honor the place I'm in and be like, okay, I don't have time for that. And I don't need to look in a closet with it and go, oh, I'm not doing that. Like it just became
Yeah.
not enjoyable just by having stuff that was supposed to be enjoyable. If that made sense, it
Yes.
was like, okay, and how about we have some craft supplies, but not a whole closet full of them? Like,
Right.
we lived in our house here for now 6 months, and I think there's a few containers behind me in this lovely, messy closet that you can see, Tess, that we haven't even touched. So it's like, so the container method that Dawn, the minimal mom, talks about, if you're not sure about decluttering it, put it in a container and then get rid of it later. So it's kind of like it's been in a container. So now it's like, okay, well, I can just be like done with that. And the other day, I don't know, maybe it was last week or something, I just got so overwhelmed with stuff everywhere in this office, and it was just like, rah! And so then I was teasing you, the rage purge, rah! And I just was like, that's it. I got rid of Christmas cards from years ago, and it was like, why am I keeping these? I'm not rereading them, and it doesn't change the sentiment or the enjoyment I had of them when they came to me. But it was
Yes.
just like, okay, I don't need to keep this. And it was like a trunk load of stuff went to Goodwill, and it was like, yay! Like
Yes.
I don't have to, like you were saying, I don't have to inventory. I don't have to manage that stuff anymore. And it didn't have a
Yes.
place. It was on the floor. Like that's not a
Right.
place for stuff. And the garage, like, okay, that's where cars are supposed to be. What's in there that the car can't be in there? And
Yes.
the kitchen is supposed to have dishes, and the bathroom is supposed to have bathroom thing. Like I was just trying to be like, not
Yes.
make it overcomplicated. Like
Right.
define the
But
space.
I like what you pointed out though about what Dawn said about your possessions. Like she talks about what are your possessions saying to you? Like, are they telling you, oh, you really haven't done this project? Like, you should probably get on that,
Yeah.
Or like, well, you want to be better at quilting and sewing. Why aren't you doing that?
Hmm.
And like, so we want our possessions to make us feel better when we're at our house, not like
Yeah.
convicting us or making us feel like we're failures of a human,
Right.
you know?
And cue the
Um,
closet again,
right.
right?
Yeah. So I think a couple of the tools that I've really found helpful. The first one was Dawn the Minimal Mom talks about a book that she read, which we're going to link in the show notes because you knew the author.
Hmm.
It's called Declutter at the Speed of Life.
Yeah.
So she talks about that because, sometimes the methods people use is they make piles and then the piles kind of just don't get cleaned up after a while. And then it just feels like a bigger mess. And so for me, that was helpful, that episode that she posted about that, to make it work in my life so that my house doesn't get messier as I'm trying to get rid of
Right.
things.
Right.
But then another thing that I've done, like you were talking about Christmas cards. So I'm a very like cards matter to me. Like I love them. And
Yeah.
I do actually go back and read them. And so I was
Hmm.
struggling with like, I don't want to get rid of these, but I had so much paper junk, like keeping it all. And so what I started doing was I use Google Keep Notes,
Hmm.
which is on my phone and it's on my computer. It's attached to my Google account. And I use that to take pictures. So I have like little notes. I have one that's like birthday cards, one that's Christmas cards.
Okay.
And I use that and I open it up and I take a picture of the card. And then it's there that I can look at it at any time and then I recycle it. And that was like such a freeing thing for me because I seriously had boxes of
Yeah.
cards. Like it
Yeah.
was a problem. And that meant I could keep them in my heart and I could like see them if I really wanted to, but the physical nature of the physical item was gone.
Yeah.
And then one other thing that I've found helpful is the 2-minute rule. And I would have to figure out who talked about this because I don't remember. But just this rule that if something is going to take less than 2 minutes, don't put it off, do it now.
Yeah.
And I have found that to be helpful because I am a procrastinator, like really, like I'll be like, I can just do that tomorrow. But they said, like if it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it now. And if it's going to take longer than that, put it in your schedule, like put it in your calendar that you're going to do it instead of, and like have a time, like I'm going to do this at this time. And that has been helpful to me to like filter some things like, okay, putting this little thing away is not going to take that long.
Right.
And then the decide once principle, like I was thinking about that this morning. Like as I tidy sometimes, which is now taking less and less and less time, I'll look at something and say, do I want to touch this again? Do I want to put energy into moving this again? Or is it something that I'm okay to get rid of? And a lot of times that can help me clear some things out in real life speed, not like I have to take a half an hour to declutter this space. It's just as I go. Yeah. So those are some things that I have found helpful to me.
Well, and when I first started, I think it was helpful, that decluttering group on Facebook. So you could just group some friends together, and then we were taking before and after pictures. And that helped me a lot because it was like, I didn't have to advertise my mess on the large Facebook. It was with some friends that were safe, and you're one of the friends on there as well. And so that just helped me like, hey, look at this before and after. Crazy mess, not so messy. Like that gave me encouragement that I wasn't alone in doing it, but there was other people that were helping. And then another thing I was thinking of, now that I've decluttered a lot, I had some practice. Now I'm able to be like, oh, this friend is going through a hard time. I could go and help her take a load of stuff to Goodwill. Like, and it's like, if there's somebody that can do that for you, that just makes it so much easier. So it just was like, we get to be helpful to each other in our messes. Like, we're not alone in this mess, and there's hope on the other side of all of your piles of stuff.
Right? Yes. So good. So we've talked about a lot of resources so far in this episode, which we're going to link in our show notes. But then we're also adding some things to our show notes today that we maybe didn't get a chance to talk about, but that we feel like would be helpful for people to see if decluttering or minimizing is something that you're interested in exploring.
Yeah, and message me privately. I love talking about getting rid of stuff.
Right.
Like, go for it. Try it out. Just ask my mom. I'm like, Mom, you ready to get rid of some more stuff? Not yet, she says.
That's funny.
Yeah, but she's been making a lot of changes too, and I think that's fun that it's been rubbing off on somebody else.
Yeah, it's infectious, right? Because I think something about simplifying, and I was thinking about it the other day just in like the context of Jesus traveling, with his disciples and stuff. And I was like, whoa, like what would it be like just to have like what you can carry on your back or on a horse? Like that's just a little crazy to think about, but how much of your brain's space would be freed up for other things? So I don't know. Sometimes I like go on the crazy end of things, and I'm like, maybe we should just sell all of our things and move into a tiny home.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm actually ready for that yet.
No, I don't think so either.
I'm ready to, like just downsize drastically. So yeah. So you were going to share a verse with us today that kind of goes along with what we're talking about.
Yeah, in chapter Luke, in the book of Luke, chapter 3, John the Baptist was preparing the way for Jesus to come, and he was talking to the people and kind of ruffling up some feathers. And then some people that stayed, they were like, "Well, what should we do? Can we be ready?" And in verse 3:11, John the Baptist answered and said to them, "He who has 2 tunics, let him give to him who has none, and he who has no food either." Sorry, I need to get a bigger print Bible, I think. or glasses, whatever. Okay, continue on with the verse. Let him do likewise. So he's saying, if you have 2 tunics, share. If you have a coat, share. If you have food, share. And then to the tax collectors who also came to be baptized, said to him, Teacher, what shall we do? And he said to them, collect no more than is what appointed for you. Likewise, the soldiers asked him, saying, what shall we do? And he said to them, do not intimidate anyone or accuse falsely, and be content with your wages. So I hear being content with our wages, not taking any more than you need, sharing what you have.
Yeah.
And I just thought, how amazing is that? And that prepares us for Jesus to come. That is, wow.
Yes. That's so good. It's so simple, but also really hard to do. And I think that's where we get to do the heart work of, and it made me think of just like for so long how I was living in a scarcity mentality. And I know for some people that is a reality. Like, so I'm not discounting that. But I think for so long I was holding on to things because I was afraid that I wouldn't have what I needed when I needed it.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a trust thing with God to say, I can pass this on and trust that if I need something, if I need this thing in the future, you will provide for me to have what I need. And man, that relates to so many different things, where we can just trust God that he, like Pastor Elizabeth said in her sermon yesterday, he has our back and he has our future. So that's, so I like the passage that you read, and I think it really just does bring it back to like getting ready for Jesus and trusting God.
And it's about others. It's not about your stuff. It's not about, let's make lots of money and let's get a big house and let's whatever. This American dream thing has gotten a little twisted with Jesus's dream, because he cares more about people than stuff.
Yes.
And we care more about you than stuff.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, friends, we'd love to hear from you guys on Facebook. If you are decluttering and would like some support and or friends along the journey, we'd love to join you with that. And we are excited for our next book that we're going to be reading, which is Don't Mom Alone. And don't dismiss it if you're not a mom, because there's a lot of principles in there that will apply to everybody. Daniel and I were having a conversation about it last night, and I think they're universal things, not just for moms. So, so we will, I guess, talk to you all next time.
Yes.
Thanks for joining me today, Corey.
Thanks for joining me today. And thanks for listening, everybody.
Yes. All right. Bye-bye.